Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is WireDogSec back with another video for you guys. Today's video we are continuing on with the offensive security learning path inside of TryHackMe. This is the exploiting Active Directory room. It says learn common AD exploitation techniques that can allow you to reach your goal in an AD environment. Let's go ahead and jump into it. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Be sure to hit the like button, comment, and subscribe. Once you subscribe, be sure to hit that notification bell. All right, so you know every time I post a new video. As you can see here, most people that view my videos, view my channel, are not subscribed. Now, if you do subscribe, it will help me get into the YouTube algorithm so that we can continue to grow our glorious community here. As always, thank you all for taking the time to watch. Have a nice day and enjoy the video. Task 1, Introduction. This room is the continuation of the breaching AD and enumerating AD networks. Please make sure to complete these rooms or networks before continuing with this one. Also note that we will discuss AD objects extensively. If you need a refresher, have a quick re-skim of this room. Now that we have breached AD and enumerated the structure of the domains, we will explore different methods that could be used to exploit misconfigurations that have surfaced from our enumeration. AD exploitation. Now that we have performed our internal recon and understand the lay of the land regarding the AD structure environment, it is time for the exploitation phase. The phase exploits misconfigurations to perform a combination of lateral movement and privilege escalation until we reach a suitable position to execute our goals as shown in the diagram below. This phase is usually combined with persistence to ensure that we can't lose the new position we gain. But this will be covered in the next room. It is also usually combined with additional enumeration since our new position might allow us to acquire additional information about the lay of the land. And there is that fancy diagram here. Learning objectives. In this network, we will cover several methods that can be used to exploit AD misconfigurations. This is by no means a complete list, as available methods are usually highly situational and dependent on the AD structure environment. However, we will cover the following techniques for AD or for exploiting AD: AD delegation, forcing authentication relays, group policy objects, targeting AD users, domain trust, silver and golden tickets. All right, this is the usual how to connect to this environment. If you're going to use the attack box, follow these instructions here. I'm using my own VM with Kali loaded up as usual because I was having issues with the attack box and I'm not going to risk it for this room and going forward for this AD set. Now let's go ahead and skip down some. I've already done this. I'm already connected, as you can see here. I'm also SSH'd into this. I already have my creds from that website, as we'll find out here below. So just follow these instructions. You should be good to go. This is where you get your creds. All right. See, I'm logged in as Barbara.read, and that's it. I'm ready to start my AD exploitation journey. I'm connected to the network, and let's go ahead and go to task number 2 here. I've already have the files for this task downloaded and I have them imported inside of Bloodhound there in the background. But let's go ahead and read on here. Task 2, exploiting permission delegation. Active Directory can delegate permissions and privileges through a feature called permission delegation, not to be confused with Kerberos delegation that will be discussed in the next task. Delegation is what makes AD so powerful in organizations. Imagine we work for an organization that has 5 or 50,000 employees. Since we care about security, we only have 3 users that have access to DA credentials, which is domain admin. It would be impossible for those 3 users to field all requests from the users, such as resetting their passwords. Using delegation, we can delegate the permission to force change a user's password to the help desk team, meaning they now have a delegated privilege for this specific function. In principle, to keep delegation secure, the principle of least privilege should be followed. Very important, y'all. However, in large organizations, this is easier said than done. In this task, we will look at exploiting some delegation misconfiguration. That's absolutely true. A lot of organizations will try to take shortcuts or be lazy, and then you'll have misconfigurations all over the place that you can take advantage of. Permission delegation. Permission delegation exploits are often referred to as ACL-based attacks. AD allows administrators to configure access control entries, ACEs, or ACEs, that populates this discretionary access control list, DACLs, hence the name ACL-based attacks. Almost any AD object can be secured using ACEs, which then describe the allowed and denied permissions that any other AD object has against the target object. However, if the ACEs are misconfigured, it may be possible for an attacker to exploit them. Let's look at our example again. If the IT support team were granted the force change password ACE over the domain users group, this would be considered insecure. Sure, they would be able to reset the passwords of employees that forgot their passwords, but this misconfiguration would also allow them to also reset the passwords of privileged accounts, such as the accounts that are members of the domain admins group, essentially allowing privilege escalation. Very bad here. Very bad here. Exploiting ACEs. A significant amount of ACEs can be misconfigured, and the exploits for each vary. The Bloodhound documentation assists in explaining enumerated ACEs and how they can be exploited. However, we will look at a couple of notable ones here. Force change password, we have the ability to set the user's current password without knowing the current password. Add members, we have the ability to add users, including our own account, groups, or computers to the target group. Generic all, we have complete control over the object, including the ability to change the user's password, register an SPN, or add an AD object to the target group. Generic write, we can update any non-protected parameters of our target object. This could allow us, for example, update the script path parameter, which would cause a script to execute the next time the user logs on. Write owner, we have the ability to update the owner of the target object. We could make ourselves the owner, allowing us to gain additional permissions over the object. Write DACL, we have the ability to write new ACEs to the target object's DACL. We could, for example, write an ACE that grants our account full control over the target object. All extended rights, we have the ability to perform any action associated with extended AD rights against the target object. This includes, for example, the ability to force change a user's password. In order to exploit the ACEs, we will need a method to interact with AD to make these requests. The two best options for this are the AD RSAT PowerShell commandlets or PowerSploit. Depending on the breach and the detection tools in the environment, one option may be stealthier. In this task, we will show both. All right, Bloodhound. Sharphound has already been executed for you and attached as a task file. Start Bloodhound on the attack box or your Kali machine and ingest the data. You are, however, welcome to rerun Sharphound yourself. Yada yada yada. Now, I've already have, like I said, I already have it in the background. I've already done this. Okay, so I'm gonna skip past this. Bloodhound's already running. This is good. Okay, privilege escalation. If we search for our user account that has been assigned in task 1 in Bloodhound, we will see that we don't have a lot of permissions. We do have the ability to RDP into THM work 1, but this will only provide us with low privilege access. So let's just go ahead and copy this here, and then let's go ahead and minimize that. As you can see here, I have the information ingested inside of Bloodhound here, so I'm going to clear that out of the way. And if we go to, yeah, let's do this here. Searching, there's my account. There we go. Okay. Let's see here. As usual, you can play around with it and try to figure out some paths to get to the golden goose eggs and such. But let's go ahead and see what they have here. Since the domain is tiered, our first step will be to compromise tier 2 infrastructure. We need to compromise the tier 2 admins group. Since this group has administrative privileges on all workstations, let's ask Bloodhound if there's perhaps a road that we can follow to compromise this group. Add your user count at the start position and then tier 2 admins group at the end position. So to do that, I believe you have to click this here. There we go. Target node. It's going to be tier 2 admins. So there we go. Awesome. And let's just go ahead and minimize this by clicking the hamburger icon here. Okay, let's go ahead and continue on. Bloodhound shows us a very interesting path. It seems that there was a slight bit of permission delegation in this domain, An administrator has misconfigured the permission delegation of the IT support group by providing the domain users group with the add members ACE. This means that any member of the domain users group, including our own account, can add accounts to the IT support group. Furthermore, Bloodhound shows that the IT support group has the force change password ACE for the tier 2 admins group. This is not really a misconfiguration since tier 2 admins are not that sensitive, but it provides a very potent attack path when combined with initial misconfiguration. Let's exploit it. Okay, and you can see that information here, right? So let me try to zoom in a little bit. Okay, there we go. And let's see, add member. The first step in this attack path is to add our AD account to the IT support group. We will use the add AD group member PowerShell commandlet from the AD RSAT toolset for this. Start PowerShell either in RDP or via SSH on the Jumpbox host and run the following commands to add your account. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm just going to copy and paste. Now let's go back over to our terminal. See if it lets me grab it in here. Nope. There we go. Awesome. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Paste this in there, and of course, change these placeholders to barbara.read. Oops. Okay, it looks good to go, so I'm going to enter. And let's see, we can verify that the command worked by using the get AD group commandlet. So let's go ahead and do that. Copy and paste. Be sure to take notes as well as we're following along here, especially if you don't have access to this room, because you do have to be a subscriber to TryHackMe. All right. And you can go through and look and see if your account was added. There's mine right here. It looks like, yeah. Okay. Let's see here. Oop, those got the wrong one. Where is my account? There we go. Okay. So sales people. Okay, let's go ahead and continue on here. Make sure I'm not missing something here. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. So let's go ahead and see. Everything works. You should see your account as a member. Force change password. Now that we are a member of the IT support group, we have the inherited the force change password permission delegation over the tier 2 admins group. First, we need to identify the members of this group. To select a target, we can use the get AD group member commandlet again to assist with this. So I'm going to copy and paste as so. And then let me clear all this stuff out of here. Okay. All right. All right. And just make a note of the username of one of these accounts. Since the network is shared, it might be best to select one further down in the list. We will use set AD account password AD RSAT commandlet to force change the password. So let's go ahead and just copy and paste this over like so. And I said to choose one on down the list. Let's do this, I guess, Caroline Dawson account. So go ahead and copy that. And then let's go ahead and change out these placeholders. Okay. Actually, I did that wrong. All right, let me try this again. I was supposed to put the password in there. So let's try this again. Okay. And it'll just make it something simple. Password 123. All right. Awesome. Now let's go ahead and do the second part here. Let me Okay. Oops. Gosh. Forgot the placeholders. I keep doing that. Let's go back and take a look at this real quick. I had to completely restart the entire machine and stuff like that. So I lost a lot of previous progress or whatever. All right, so anyway, I went back through the instructions here. As you can see here, get AD group member, tier 2 admins, right, to find out who's in there. And I try to set the password for Carolyn.Dawson. And it says access denied. If you're getting that error, just follow these instructions here, down here. All right, I had to do it a couple times. All right, I had to do GP update force, and then I had to disconnect from the SSH session and then log back in. As you can see, I ran into some more issues, and I had a couple typos here. So let's go back into it. Just going back down here, same thing, right? I had to double check, make sure that account was still in there, which is this colon.lane account, since I had to get new creds. All right, so that's the account I used, and then I went back through the instructions again, set the password for that account, this T2 underscore Caroline.Dawson. Eventually it worked. All right, as you can see here, let me go all the way back down here. And I logged into that account via SSH, as you can see down here, right? Located the flag on the box in the admin, on the administrator's desktop here. You can see I typed flag, got the flag, and let's go ahead and continue on with task number 3, exploiting Kerberos delegation. And let's see what they have to say. Next, we will take a look at Kerberos delegation. When you talk about AD delegation, this is usually what is being discussed, not permission delegation. Kerberos delegation. The practical use of Kerberos delegation is to enable an application to access resources hosted on a different server. An example of this would be a web server that needs to access a SQL database hosted on the database server for the web application that it is hosting. Without delegation, we would probably use an AD service account and provide it with direct access to the database. When requests are made on the web application, the service account would be used to authenticate to the database and recover information. However, we can also allow the service account to be delegated to the SQL Server service. Once a user logs into our web application, the service account will request access to the database on behalf of that user. This means that the user account or the user would only be able to access data in the database that they would have the relevant permissions for without having to provide any database privileges or permissions to the service account itself. Constrained versus unconstrained. There are two types of Kerberos delegation. In the original implementation of Kerberos delegation, unconstrained delegation was used, which is the least secure method. In essence, unconstrained delegation provides no limits to the delegation. In the background, if a user with the trusted for delegation flag set authenticates to a host with unconstrained delegation configured, a ticket granting ticket for the user account is generated and stored in memory so it can be used later if needed. Suppose an attacker can compromise a host that has unconstrained delegation enabled. In that case, they could attempt to force a privileged account to authenticate to the host, which would allow them to intercept the generated TGT and impersonate the privileged service. If you want to see an example of the exploitation of unconstrained delegation, have a look here. So check that out if you're interested. To combat the security failings of unconstrained delegation, Microsoft introduced constrained delegation in 2003. Constrained delegation restricts what services an account can be delegated to, limiting exposure if an account is compromised. The following are examples of services that can be configured for delegation. You got HTTP, you got CIFS, you got LDAP, you got host, you got MS SQL. All right, so be sure to read through these and understand what they're talking about here. Exploiting constrained delegation is usually more complex than exploiting unconstrained delegation, since the delegated account can't just be used for everything. However, it can still be used for some powerful exploitation. An example of this would be if we were able to compromise an AD account that had constrained delegation configured. By knowing the plaintext, password, or even just the NTLM hash of this account, we could generate a TGT for this account, then use the TGT to execute a ticket granting server request for any non-sensitive user account in order to access the service as that user. Imagine impersonating an account with access to a sensitive database, for example. Resource-based constrained delegation. So there are actually three types of Kerberos delegation, but this one deserves to be mentioned on its own, introduced by Microsoft 2012. Resource-based constrained delegation, RBCD, once again provided additional restrictions on Kerberos delegation for security. RBCD changes the delegation model entirely. Instead of specifying which object can delegate to which service, the service now specifies which object can delegate to it. This allows the service owner to control who can access it. In our web application example, this means that instead of specifying that the web service account can delegate to the database service to access the database, we can now specify that on the database service that the web service account is allowed to delegate access to it. Let's say that we have permission to configure RBCD for a service. This means we have the ability to set the MSDS allowed to act on behalf of other identity attribute for the AD object. We can populate this attribute with the details of an AD account that we have access to. To now gain access to the service, we can generate a TGT for the account we control, which will allow us to interact with the service. If you want a detailed example of RBCD exploitation, take a look here. So check that out if you're interested. Constrained delegation exploitation. We will exploit constrained delegation for this task. The first thing we need to do is enumerate available delegations. Let's use our privileged user for the network couple of commands. We can use the get net user commandlet of PowerShell for this enumeration by running the following command. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. I'm just going to copy and paste this over. It said that it uses elevated count, so let's go ahead and clear this stuff out. Oop, if I can spell clear correctly. All right, CLS. There we go. And they want us to drop into PowerShell, so let's go ahead and do that. Awesome. And let's go ahead and paste this in there. All right, that's done. And get user. All right, now while that's running, based on the output of this command, we can see that the SVC IIS account can delegate the HTTP and WS-MAN services on the THM server 1. You would think that this means we can only access websites on behalf of impersonated users. However, PowerShell remoting uses HTTP and WS-MAN services as well. The ideal option would be to impersonate a Tier 1 admin, since this would provide us with administrator access over THM server 1. So, what they're talking about here, let's see. All right, so you can go back and take a look, review this information, what they're talking about. All right, SVCIS, and you can see WS man stuff in here. All right, so let's see. If you were to perform proper post-exploitation enumeration of THM work 1, you would find that there is a service on the host running as the service IS user. Since we have administrative access now, we can use this to dump LSA secrets, part of Windows Registry Hive, where credentials are stored for features such as Windows services. Let's use Mimikatz to dump these secrets. Okay, so let's go ahead and try that. And that doesn't mention if they want us to use it for this session or the other session, but all right, let's try the top session first, and if that doesn't work, we'll try it down below. So let me go ahead and clear all this out up here. Paste. And push. Let's see if this works. Oh, awesome. Okay, cool. And token elevates. Okay. It's looking good so far. I'll say dump secrets. Error message. All right. Let's see what happened here. let's see. Well, let's try at the bottom and see if that's where we're supposed to be putting this stuff into. So I'm just going to copy and paste down here. Okay, token elevates. Sweet. I'll say dump. All right, cool. There we go. So you can see all kinds of information is coming back here. Let's run through the two commands. Token elevate to dump the secrets from the registry hive. We need to impersonate the system user. LSA dump secrets. Mimikatz interacts with the registry hive to pull the cleartext credentials. Now that we have access to the password associated with the service IIS account, we can perform a Kerberos delegation attack. We will use a combination of Kekio, and Mimikatz. You can use another window for Mimikatz, but make sure to exit out of Mimikatz after the token elevate command. Otherwise, the tickets will be loaded in the wrong context later on. We will use Kekio to generate our tickets and then use Mimikatz to load those tickets to memory. Let's start by generating tickets. So let's go ahead and try this out. All right, so let's go ahead and exit Mimikatz. All right, and I'm going to copy and paste this information over. All right, that's looking good. So we first need to generate a TGT that can be used to generate tickets for HTTP and WS man services. So let's go ahead and do that here. Password redacted. Okay. Well, we need to go ahead and grab that password. See if I can just scroll up and grab it real quick. Yep, there it is. Okay. Oops. If I can grab the entire thing here. Okay. And oh, wait a second. Was it already down there? Okay. Cool. Oh, I didn't even notice that. But let's go ahead and run this. Okay. Ticket in file, TGT, yada yada yada. Okay. Looks good. Parameters explain user. The user who has the constrained delegation permissions, domain. The domain that we are attacking, since Kekio can be used to forge tickets and to abuse cross-force trust. Password, the password associated with the SVC IIS account. Now that we have the TGT for the account that can perform delegation, we can forge TGS requests for the account we want to impersonate. We need to perform this for both HTTP and WS man to allow us to create a PS session on THM server 1. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so I'm going to do some good old copy and paste in here. All right, so it looks like, okay, I need to copy and paste all this. And then assume they want us to we have to change the information here. So let me do this and then we'll come back. Let's go ahead and review real quick. First off, you need to figure out who's in the tier 1 admins. You can do that using this here. All right, and the person I'm going to impersonate is going to be this T1 J Wilson. So all I did was plug it in there, right? So let me scroll up a little bit down here. And you can see the information right here. I did it both for the WS man service and then I did it for the HTTP service as well, as you can see there. All right, so that part is done. It says parameters explain TGT. We provide the TGT that we generated in the previous step. The user we want to impersonate, since tier 2 accounts have administrative access over workstations. It is safe to assume that the T1 accounts will have administrative access over servers, so choose a T1 account that you would like to impersonate. The services we want to impersonate using delegation. We first generate a TGT or TGS for the HTTP service, then rerun the same command for the WS man service. Run the command again, and this time for the WS man service. Now that we have the two TGS tickets, we can use Mimikatz to import them. So let's go ahead and do that. Let me go ahead and exit out of this. And let's get back into Mimikatz. Privilege debug. Oops. Let me fix this. I thought I had it copied already. So let's try this again. Okay, so that's good. And I'm going to pass the ticket that we had above here. So let me go ahead and get that information. Let's go ahead and review real quick. I went through, loaded up these tickets already. And you can see here, once you exit out of Mimikatz, you can use klist command to list the cache tickets. You can see this one is for HTTP, another one's for WSMan. All right, now let's go ahead and continue on, and it's going to talk about this here, this new PS session. So now that we have tickets imported, we can finally create our PS session on THM server 1. So let's go ahead and do that. Go ahead and clear this out and paste this information in here. All right, so that looks good. And we need to enter it now, like so. Okay. Okay, awesome. Do a who am I? See, now I am this T1J. Wilson person. So let's go back. And it says that, well, we need to get the flag, right? So let's go dir. Okay, let's do desktop. It's probably in the desktop. Nothing there. CD. It's probably in the administrator's desktop. Okay, do a dir. There we go. Then type it. Awesome. Now let's go ahead and get this ready to go because I'm pretty sure we have to plug it in here. It says constrained delegation can be very bad. Okay, with the exploitation of constrained delegation, we now have privileged access to THM Server 1. Answer the questions. Which Kerberos delegation type allows for delegation of all services? Remember, unconstrained delegation, that's the least secure method. Which Kerberos delegation type allows for allows the service to specify who is allowed to delegate to it? That was the long one we saw above that came out in like 2012. I believe that's what it said. Resource-based constrained delegation. It says which constrained delegation service allows access to the file system of the servers or system via delegation. That's going to be CIFS. Remember, it had discussed a few different ones you could take advantage of. And it says, what is the value of the flag stored? And we just grab that like so, plug it in, done. Now let's go ahead and continue on to task number 4, exploiting automated relays. Task 4, exploiting automated relays. In this task, we will take a look at some automated relays. Authentication attempts are constantly flying across the network, and as shown in the breaching AD room, if we are lucky, we can intercept some of these challenges to gain access. But what if we don't like to wait? What if we can coerce authentication to occur? Although we already have privileged access to THM server 1, we could be in a position where we did not have access to constrained delegation exploit. This is another excellent attack that can be performed to gain privileged access to the host. Machine accounts. All Windows hosts have a machine account. Essentially, this is the user account associated with the machine. Unless someone tampered with the account of the host, the passwords of these accounts are uncrackable. By default, they are 120 UTF-16 long, um, yeah, 120 characters long, and are automatically rotated every 30 days. In AD, these machine accounts are used quite a bit in different services. Different domain controllers use their machine accounts to synchronize AD updates and changes. When you request a certificate on behalf of the host you're working on, the machine account of that host is used for authentication to the AD certificate service. There is an exceptional case in AD where one machine has admin rights over another machine. Essentially, in the AD configuration, administrative permissions over a host have been granted to another host. Again, this is expected functionality such as domain controllers or SQL clusters that must be synchronized. However, these instances provide a very interesting attack vector for coercing authentication. We first need to identify cases where a machine account has administrative access over another machine. We can use we can use Bloodhound for this, but It means we'll have to write some custom cipher queries. Click the Create Custom Query in the Analysis tab in Bloodhound. So let's go ahead and take a look at Bloodhound in the background here. Okay, so it says we want to write the following query. I'm just going to copy and paste it over. So this query will attempt to find instances where a computer has the admin2 relationship over another computer. You should see output similar to this. So let's see here. So if I can remember where to put this, it's been a while. Okay, that's definitely not it. Where's this at? Oops, let me get rid of all this. Should be under analysis, right? Yeah, right there. So let's go ahead and put that in. Okay. All right. Now, if we go and take a look, we have something similar to what they have here. Okay, let's continue on. This is very interesting. It shows us that the THM Server 2 machine account has administrative privileges over the THM Server 1 machine. The printer bug. It's not a bug, it's a feature in Microsoft. Seriously, when this was reported, Microsoft responded that this was a feature. The printer bug is a feature of the LMS RPRN protocol, print system remote protocol. It says which allows a domain user to remotely force a target host running the print explorer service to authenticate to an arbitrary IP address. There have been a few of these bugs in recent years. Spooler, Petit Podum, Print Nightmare. Microsoft claims that the only bug is that some of these did not require AD credentials at all, but this issue has been resolved through security patches. Therefore, to exploit this apart from machine account administrative privileges, we also need to meet the following conditions. One, a valid set of AD credentials. Two, network connectivity to the target's SMB service. Three, the target host must be running the Print Explorer service. Four, the host must not have SMB signing enforced. Condition 1 and 2 have already been met. The only two we need to ensure works are conditions 3 and 4. Print Spooler service. We need to determine if the Sprint Spooler service is running. Since we don't have access to THM Server 2, we need to query from the network perspective. In this case, we can use WMI query from our SSH session on THM work 1 to query the service's current state. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, I gotta remember which one is which. So let me figure that out real quick. Okay, yep. Let's go ahead and do that here. And it says access denied. All right, as you can see here, here's the output from this command here. And let's go ahead and continue on. It says the output from the commandlet verifies that the service is running. If we get an access denied error, you could perhaps attempt the PowerShell command of get printer report, computer, yada yada yada. However, Microsoft has been cracking down viewing these ports from the network's perspective. If both give you an error, you may just need to take a leap of faith. Thus, condition 3 has been met. Our SMB signing, in order to relay coerced authentication attempt, SMB signing should not be enforced. It should be noted that there's a difference between SMB signing being allowed and SMB signing being enforced. Since some legacy systems do not support SMB signing, by default, the configuration of SMB is that signing is allowed but not enforced, meaning that it will only be used if supported. Since we will be hosting a malicious SMB server, we can ensure our server does not support signing, forcing the target not to sign the SMB authentication attempt. To verify that server 1 and server 2 do not have SMB signing enforced, you can use nmap on the attack box. I just did it from here. There you go. And I wonder why the second one didn't show up in there. That's weird. Let me run this again real quick. All right, now let's see if, there we go. Now it shows up for both of them. Not sure what happened there. We can see that SMB signing is enabled but not enforced based on the output. This means all our conditions are met, and we can start the attack exploiting authentication relays. Note, this attack can be unstable. Abusing the print spooler servers may cause it to crash, and a callback is not always guaranteed. For this reason, the previous task already provided you with the permissions required to continue. However, understanding authentication relays and how to force them is essential for AD exploitation. As such, the steps to perform such an attack are provided below. You decide to give it a go, but a callback is not guaranteed. If it does not work, move on to the next task. Perhaps explore this again at the end of your room journey. All right, I guess we'll give it a shot. We'll be using the spool sample to exploit the authentication relay. It is a C# exploit, but has already been compiled for you, stored on C tools directory on workstation. We'll use the spool sample.exe to course THM server 2 to authenticate to our attack box, and then in packets NTLM relay x.py to relay the authentication attempt to THM server 1. Note that if you are using your own VM, you will need to make sure you have updated the version of Impact that supports SMB version 2. The first step is to set up the Intel relay on our attack boxes the following. So I'm going to use my own VM, which I already have here. All right, so let's go ahead and clear all this out. I have everything ready to go here, and I'm going to fire it up like so. Okay, everything seems to be loading, some kind of error message, but I'm just going to ignore that for now. And it says if we specify the host name of server 1 instead of the IP, the host could request that we use Kerberos authentication instead of NTLM. Hence, we should specify the IP instead. With the relay listening, we can now coerce server 2 to authenticate to us in an SSH terminal on work 1. Execute the following. I have that ready to go. All right, spool sample.exe, yada, yada, yada. Go ahead and fire this bad boy off. Let's flip back over to my attack box. Here, you can see it's collecting some information there. Says your attacker IP should correspond with your TON-X interface for the network. If all goes well, you should have received an authentication attempt and a relay to server 1. As you can see, there's dumping SAM hashes and stuff. Very useful here. Right, so if you get those SAM hashes, you can use those hashes to gain access to that victim machine. All right, server admin 500. That's exactly what you need. All right, so there you go. And it says here, basically, you can use the -C parameter to fire off commands on the victim machine, right? So this is doing a who am I slash all, right? And it's going to pull that information as you can see down here. It says this output resembles what would happen if you use the -C who am I command. However, by specifying no command, you should have performed a hash dump, which we saw right here. These credentials can now be used to get a shell on the host. Like I said, you can use like pass hash something to get that shell on the box. The victim machine, question time. How often in days are passwords of Windows machine accounts rotated by default? It's going to be 30. What should not be enforced if we want to relay SMB authentication attempt, SMB signing, right? And then we need to get this flag. Now, there's multiple ways to do this. You can do it by getting onto the box itself. I'm going to kill this here and clear this out like so. And you can also do it the lazy way like this, right? So go ahead and fire this up. And we're gonna do the same thing here once this finishes loading. Okay, looks good to go. Waiting for connections. You're gonna do the same thing here. Let me clear the screen. Up arrow. Bam. Fire that off. And it should be, the flash should be over here at some point once it gets to that section. And let's see if it's showing up anywhere. There we go. There's the flag. Let me go ahead and kill this. All right, grab the flag, plug it in there, and we are done with this part. So we're going to copy and paste. Next section is going to be task number 5, and says exploiting 80 users. So let's go ahead and take a look at this, see what they have for us. And it says we have gotten quite far with our exploitation up to this point. We have full administrative access to workstations and servers. Essentially, we can perform post-exploitation on almost any Tier 1 and Tier 2 system. But we still want to go further. This next attack can also be seen as post exploitation, but is often an excellent thing to use when we are still performing exploitation to reach a suitable position for goal execution. It is time for us to target 80 users. Users and user behavior. The factory of the future will only have two employees, a human and a dog. The human will be there to feed the dog. The dog will be there to bite the human if they try to touch something. Warren Bennis. Users are unfortunately often the weakest link in the security chain. Just think about weak passwords and bad habits, such as granting overly permissive permissions. It would be ignorant and ineffective to overlook this attack surface. While it is good to build up a proper enumeration and attack methodology against AD users, in this task we will focus on two elements: credential management, how users store their credentials, and AD. This is quite important since users may have multiple sets of credentials and remembering all of them can be a hassle. Key logging. Often during exploitation, we need to understand how normal users interact with a system. Together with screen grabs, key logging can be a useful tool to gain this understanding from an attacker's perspective. Hunting for creds. Now that we have compromised server one, we should probably look around to see if there are any useful information. Have a look at the other directories and see if there is some useful information in any of them. Your enumeration efforts should lead you to a KDBX file. A quick Google search confirms our suspicion that this file is indeed very valuable. We can use the interpreter's download command to recover this file. This file seems to be a credential database. The issue, however, is that the database is encrypted with a password. We could attempt to crack the password, but anyone who uses a credential database usually has the savvy to make sure the initial password is secure. We may have more success seeing how the user interacts with the database. System is sometimes too privileged. Okay, it says interpreter has a built-in keylogger. This will be useful for extracting the user's keystrokes. However, we can't just start this keylogger and hope for the best since our shell is currently running in the system context. System won't be typing any keystrokes, and this won't help us to capture the correct user's credentials. We need to ensure that our shell is running in the context of that user. Fortunately, interpreter provides us with a migrate feature, and since we are running as system, we should be able to migrate to any process. You should have remote code execution on server one. Use this to get a interpreter shell. If you need a recap of using interpreter and Metasploit, here's a module in that use. However, for a quick rundown, you can use the following command to generate a PowerShell payload, which is this here. You can also use the following to create the associated listener and the MSF console, like so. You can host the interpreter shell using Python web server and copy it using something like this, cert util, yada yada yada. Once you have an interpreter shell, you can continue this. First step is to see if users are running processes on the machine. So let's go ahead and do this here, and then we'll get to this point and come back. All right, as you can see here, I've connected to the victim machine via evil winrm server admin and then the hash for that account. All right, now I navigated to the documents directory here. So I'm gonna scroll all the way back down, and I had used cert util to get my shell payload onto the victim machine, and I ran it. All right. Now remember, before you run it, you gotta use this one-liner here to start up interpreter session so that it's listening. All right, and then you launch the shell, and it'll connect back like so. Now let's go ahead and continue on. I'm gonna go ahead and paste this in there like so. Okay, it says Explorer not found. So if you not see Explorer.exe, perturb.local, you can start the process yourself, perform the following steps. All right, well, if you want to go ahead and follow these steps to reset the password, reboot the system, go ahead and do that. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to skip past it, and we'll just read through. It seems like we are lucky. The user has an active session on server one. Let's migrate to a process for this user. Basically, all right, you're looking at your processes here. You're going to see uh, if this Trevor was logged in and running something, you'd see it over here in this user section, right? So that's the gist of it. And you're going to use migrate and migrate to that specific process by using the PID, all right? It says we can confirm that we are now running the context user. You can use get UID, right? And it'll say that you're running as Trevor.local. Now we're ready to start a keylogger. You can key scan, start. Now we have to be patient and wait for lucky. You can capture some credentials. Give it a couple minutes, then running. Key scan dump. All right, it'll dump those creds. This is a straightforward example of targeting 80 users. there's a lot more that can be done. It is essential to include user targeting in your exploitation methodology for AD. To answer the questions for this task, you'll need KeyPass. It has been installed in your attack box. For you, you can just search for it, yada yada yada. You can follow these directions here if you want to install it on your own box. And it says make sure to use Interpreter download KeyPass database to your host. If you're using Kali, make sure you use Kali. The Kali user owns the database before you open it, otherwise it might lock the database, yada yada yada. Although persistence will only be discussed in the next room, now might be a good time to create a local account, THM server 1, and grant it admin rights so that you have a good foothold. Since this is not really needed for the rest of the task, if you want to do this, you'll need to do a bit of research yourself, so be sure to try that if you want to. Question time. What application is used to open KDBX credential? Well, that's going to be KeyPass. That's a KeyPass extension, file extension. What interpreter command do you use to move from system to user contacts? Well, as explained, you can use migrate and migrate into that particular process. What's the password of the credential database? So I'm assuming we're going to need to try to, I guess, crack that file. This is what is the value of the flag stored in the credential database. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, in order to get the last two answers, you're going to have to follow these steps here if the Trevor thing is not showing up here, all right? Which is what I did. I had to restart the box, go through all that whole process, and did the PS grep explorer. You can see Trevor here, migrated to that process there, get UID, Trevor, key scan, listen for a couple minutes, did a key scan dump those captured keystrokes there, and it says, I'm really sure no one will guess my password. That's going to be the answer to this questionnaire. And then you need to download the file onto your machine. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. So let's see where we're at. Okay, let's go back. Let's go back and pretty sure, make sure. Okay, awesome. So CD into users and Trevor local, and we need CD into documents. Yep, do dir, and there's the file. So you could do download like so. Download that file. Okay, should be good to go there. And let's flip back here. So let's do that. And there's the file. I already have this KeyPass thing on here. For some reason, the KeyPass X was not working. I'm not sure what was going on there, but I'm gonna try it this way with this KeyPass 2. All right, and let's go ahead and plug this password in. See if we get access to this database. Okay. No. Okay. All right. Awesome. There's the flag. So let's take a look here. There's the flag. Task number 6, exploiting GPOs. Keylogging the user allowed us to decrypt their credential database, providing us with credentials that can be useful to further our goal of AD exploitation, namely the server or service serve man account. We need to perform a bit of enumeration to figure out what these credentials will be useful for. Luckily for us, we have Sharphound data. Look at Bloodhound. Let's review the permissions, discover the account. All right, so basically you go in here and you plug in the account up here, right, this box, and then you go to node info and you go down to this, I believe this is outbound object control, and you click on the GPO or group delegated object, right? Click that, and nope, that's not the right one. This one here. Yeah, this first degree object control is the one you need. All right. It doesn't. I don't think it tells you that here. But anyway, one permission in particular stands out for this account ownership over a group policy object. Furthermore, when we do a bit of investigation, it seems like this GPO is applied to THM server 2 machine. All right, you can see that here. I'm assuming they want us to type that in. So let's do that. Let's do pathfinding and THM server 2. Okay, there we go. So let me minimize that. All right. Says this may provide us with the ideal opportunity to further our AD exploitation. Group policy objects. Remember when we discussed the sysvol directory and enumerating AD? This is the directory where AD GPOs or gosh, are replicated to domain joined machines. A GPO is a virtual collection of policy settings. Each GPO has a unique name called a GUID. That's why if you try to read the contents of the sysvol directory, it won't make a lot of sense with all the random names. Each Windows computer has a local policy configuration. This contains several notable configurations, such as application configuration for services such as firewall, antivirus, and app locker, local group membership, such as the administrator or remote desktop user groups, startup configurations, such as scripts that should be executed, security and protocol settings, such as SMB version 1 support. These are just a few examples. There are a significant amount of configuration options that can be set. Group policy management. If you only have one Windows computer, it is easy to change the local policy configuration directly on the host. However, you need a mechanism to deploy configuration from a central location in large organizations. This is where Group Policy Management (GPM) comes into play. Instead of defining policies locally on each machine, GPM allows us to define policies directly on the AD structure. Essentially, we can define GPOs for AD objects such as a specific OU or group. Says domain join computers would then pull all policies from sysvol periodically and apply the relevant ones. By default, policies are replicated every 15 minutes through the GP update application. We can, however, also manually execute this application from the command prompt to apply policies instantly. Exploiting GPOs, although there are several ways in which GPOs can be exploited, we will stick with the simple solution of adding an AD account we control to both the local administrators and local remote desktop users groups. This will allow us administrative privileges to server 2 and the ability to RDP in. We could also use the exposed SSH port, but not many organizations have upgraded to providing SSH access. Hence, RDP access or conventional lateral movement techniques like SMB exec are safer. In order to modify the GPO, we need access group policy management as the AD user that has the relevant permissions. We could RDP into THM server 1 as the user, but that may kick the user out of the access session, raising suspicion. Instead, we will RDP into work 1 with either our normal or our tier 2 admin account, inject AD user's credentials into memory using the run as command, and open MMC to modify the GPO. For recap, on run as command, refer to enumerating AD room. However, the required command is also provided here that should be executed from an administrative command prompt. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. I am RDP'd into the THM work 1 via Remina, and I used my tier 2 account, right, that we had earlier, this Caroline.Dawson account, all right? And I open up a new command prompt, and I'm running it as SVC servman, as you can see there. All right, so let's go ahead and continue on. So once prompted, provide the password, which is already done, to verify if you have the correct permissions. Let's do dir za.tryhackme. All right, looks good. Now we need to get into MMC. So let's do that. Okay, have it open. I wish there's a way to make this bigger somehow. I have to fiddle around with the um, options here. It says MMM screenshot. We now want to add group policy management snap-in. So it says file, add remove, and then group policy management. All right. Okay. Hit OK. Done. You should now be able to see GPOs for za.tryhackme.com domain. And we should see that in here. If it lets me move this over a little bit. There we go. All right. Awesome. Okay. It says we can now navigate to the GPO that our user has permission to modify. Servers management servers. So let's do that servers and then management servers right there. And then management server pushes. Okay. It says we can right click on the GPO, select edit. So let's do that. Edit. It says in order to add our account to the local groups, we need to perform the following steps. Expand computer configuration, policies, Windows settings, security settings, restricted groups. Okay, restricted groups, and then select add group. Add group says if the IT support group already exists, it means someone has already performed the exploit. You can either delete it and create it yourself, or just inspect it, see what was configured. So it's already there. So we don't need to create it again. All right, administrators, remote desktop users. Okay, click browse, IT support, check names. Okay, looks good. The first filter is not used. Second filter, we want to add administrators and remote desktop users, which is already there. So I'm not going to mess with it. Once the configuration has been made, we click apply OK. Now all we do is wait for a maximum of 15 minutes for the GPO to be applied. After this, our initial account that we made, a member of the IT support group will now have administrative and RDP permissions for THM server 2. Okay, so let's see here. Let me make sure I have everything set in there correctly. All right, it looks fine. I mean, I might just try it like this, and then I guess you can try to RDP into it with that original account, which I think was that was the call-in account we had earlier. What object allows users to configure Windows policies? What AD feature allows us to configure GPOs for the entire AD structure? What is the name of the GPO that our compromised AD account owns? That was the let me see here. That was let me exit out of this. The management something. Yeah, management server pushes. So server pushes. What is the value of the flag stored in THM server 2 in the administrator's desktop directory flag 4? So we need to get into server 2 and then get the rest of these as well. So let's go ahead and do that. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Be sure to hit the like button, comment, and subscribe. Once you subscribe, be sure to hit that notification bell. All right, so you know every time I post a new video. As you can see here, most people that view my videos, view my channel, are not subscribed. Now, if you do subscribe, it will help me get into the YouTube algorithm so that we can continue to grow our glorious community here. As always, thank you all for taking the time to watch. Have a nice day and enjoy the video. Now back to these questions. The answer for the first one is going to be group policy object. Second one is going to be group policy management. And now we need to get the flag for THM server 2. Now what I did is SSH into the box with colon.lanes information here. As you can see, I'm connected to it. So who am I? Host name. All right. And we need to find that flag. So let's do a dir. And it's probably going to be in the administrators area, I'm sure. Let's see here. Okay, so let's do, yeah, I need to get into administrator. So administrator and then probably desktop. Let's do a dir. There it is. Type flag 4. Awesome. Go ahead and copy and paste this over. Should be done with that task. Task number 7, exploiting certificates. And let's see what they have to say here. Now that we have access to THM Server 2, we have furthered our journey of exploiting AD by exploiting all Tier 1 assets servers. However, we are again stuck without the simple means to move to the next tier. So again, we will need to look for more creative paths. Research done and released as a white paper by Spectre Ops showed that it was possible to exploit misconfigured certificate templates for privilege escalation and lateral movement. If you want to better understand certificate misconfigurations and how to identify them, please have a look at this room. All right, AD certificate services. It says AD Certificate Services, CS, is Microsoft's public key infrastructure PKI implementation. Since AD provides a level of trust in an organization, it can be used as a CA to prove and delegate trust. ADCS is used for several things, such as encrypting file systems, creating and verifying digital signatures, and even user authentication, making it a promising avenue for attackers. Since ADCS is a privileged function, it usually runs on selected domain controllers, meaning normal users can't really interact with the service directly. On the other side of the coin, organizations tend to be too large to have an administrator create and distribute each certificate manually. This is where certificate templates come in. Administrators of ADCS can create several templates that can allow any user with the relevant permissions to request a certificate themselves. These templates have parameters that say which user can request the certificate and what is required. SpectreOps found that the specific combinations of these parameters can be incredibly toxic and abused for privilege escalation and persistent access. Before we dive deeper into the certificate abuse, some terminology. PKI, public key infrastructure, is a system that manages certificates and public key encryption. ADCS, Active Directory Certificate Services, is Microsoft PKI implementation, which usually runs on domain controller. CA, Certificate Authority, is a PKI that issues certificates, a certificate template, a collection of settings and policies that defines how and when a certificate may be used by CA. CSR, Certificate Signing Request, is a message sent to the CA request a signed certificate. EKU, extended or enhanced key usage, are object identifiers that define how a generated certificate may be used. This is finding vulnerable certificate templates. In order to find vulnerable templates, we will use Windows built-in tool certutil. Using our RDP access on THM Server 2, we can run the following PowerShell script to enumerate certificates. All right, and this will provide output of all configured templates. We could also use a certificate auditing tool such as GhostPax, PS, PKI audit. However, a manual approach allows us to make sure we find all possible misconfigurations. A certificate template is deemed misconfigured if a combination of parameter values becomes poisonous, allowing the requester to perform privilege escalation. In our case, we are looking for a template with the following poisonous parameters combinations. Client, the certificate can client authentication. The certificate can be used for client authentication. CT flag enrollee supply subject. The certificate template allows us to specify the subject alternative name, the SAN. CT private key flag exploitable key. The certificate will be exploitable with the private key. Certificate permissions. We have the required permissions to use the certificate templates. I'm wondering if I could just do this here inside of this SSH session here. So let's clear all this stuff out and let's find out. Okay, then let's see. Oh, gosh, I forgot. I'm in Windows. Let's try this again. All right, yeah, there's stuff in there. Cool. If you are interested in learning more about poisonous parameter combinations, have a read of the white paper SpectreOps. Since the aim of this room is to gain more broad knowledge of AD exploitation attacks, we will be pointing out that template 32 is the vulnerable template. In this template, we can see that the machine account THM Server 2 can issue a CSR for a template that allows us to specify the subject alternative name and can be used for client authentication. SpectreOps mentions 8 common security misconfigurations with ADCS, so it should be noted that there are still a significant amount of potential misconfigurations that can be found. Exploiting a certificate template. Using RDP access on THM Server 2, we will now request our certificate. If you use Remina and save the config of the RDP connection, please make sure to disable restrict admin mode. We will use the Microsoft Management Console again. All right. So we need to get back in there and do this. All right, let me get this RDP working, and we'll go from there. Over here, RDP'd into THM Server 2, and I already have MMC fired up, and I'm adding this certificates feature here, the snap in, and I want to add the computer account, and this is local computer. Okay, hit OK. Should be good to go here. So you should now see the snap in like so. So let's take a look here. and personal. So we will request a personal certificate. Right click on personal and select all tasks. So let's do that. Right click and then all tasks, request new certificate. Click next twice. 1, 2, and okay, so select AD enrollment policy. Okay. You will see that we have one template we can request, but first we need to provide additional information. Okay, this is lagging or something. All right, okay. Click on the more information warning. It says change the subject name type option to common name. Okay, common name. And then it says, and provide any value since it does not matter. Okay, we'll just do test. Hit add. Okay, change the alternative name type option to user principal. So let's do that here, and then it says supply the UPN of your user account you want to impersonate. The best will be a DA account, which is domain admin, such as administrator. So I'm going to copy and paste that over and then click add, like so. Awesome. And it says your additional information should look something like this. All right, it looks correct. Once you are happy with it, click apply and OK, and then select the certificate and click enroll. You should be able to see your certificates here. And let's see if I can move this around. Man, I really do not like this window here. Let's see. Invalid. What? Let's see. I wonder if I can just tab. All right, sweet. Hit enroll. The last step is to export our certificate with the private key. So as soon as this gets done, we'll do that here shortly. This looks pretty neat. I think this is the first time I've done this particular exploit. All right, it looks done. Finish. Okay. Right click on the certificate. All. Okay. Yeah, right click on the certificate and select all tasks. So we need to go and find it in here. And there's already a bunch in there. So let's do that. All tasks. And it says to hit export. And then yes. Private key. Like so. All right. Yes, next. And it says click next, then set a password for the certificate since the private key cannot be exported without a password. All right. Let's see. Click next, select a location to store the certificate, and then next to finally finish. All right, so let's do this. I guess it's this option there, password. Password 1, exclamation point. All right, file name. And what we're gonna put, I guess put this on desktop. Let's do that, test. And click finish. Okay. All right. It says it was successful, so let's see here. User impersonation through a certificate. Now we can finally impersonate a user. To perform this, 2 steps are required. Use the certificate to request a Kerberos ticket granting ticket. Load the Kerberos TGT into the hacking platform of choice. For the first step, we will be using Rubius. An already compiled version is available in Tools directory. Open a command prompt window and navigate to this directory. We will use the following. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. Let me minimize this stuff here. And open up command prompt. All right. So I have to run as administrator probably. Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and do this. We need to go into the tools directory. So let's go ahead and copy and paste like so. All right, cool. So we are going to copy and paste all this stuff over again. Path to certificate. All right, so we got to fill out some placeholders here. It looks like, and let's go ahead and copy this stuff over. I went ahead, entered all the information, placeholders and stuff. You can see up here. Ran it. Rubius ran. Create the file, and we're ready to continue on. Also, if you're using Remina and you want to make this screen bigger, be sure to click this icon here, the one that looks like a square and has two arrows in it. It says, let's break down the parameters. User specifies the user that we want to impersonate and has to match the UPN for the certificate we generated. ENC type, this specifies the encryption type for the ticket, setting this as support for evasion since the default encryption algorithm is weak, which will result in an overpass the hash alert. Certificate, path to the certificate we have generated. Password for the certificate file. Output file where our TGT will be output to. Domain, the FQDN of the domain we are currently attacking. DC, the IP of the domain controller, which we are requesting the TGT from. Usually it is best to select the DC that has CA service running. Once we execute the command, we should receive our TGT, and which we already did all this. Now we have, or we can use Mimikatz to load the TGT and authenticate to THMDC. So let's go ahead and load up Mimikatz. All right, and I'm just gonna copy and paste this over if it'll let me. All right, and this lag is like killing me. It's like it's not pasting, but it is. But then it just lags. It just messes up stuff. All right, anyway. So let's see here. Privilege debug. All right, so that's good. And we want to do this here. Make sure that this is correct. All right, so all right, I'm just gonna type it in. I don't know what's going on here. So Kerberos, PTT, and then the file name, which was test. Okay, should be good. And then exit, and we can check this information. Okay, let's do CLS, get that out of the way. All right, so looks like it's good. And let's go ahead and try this. So I'm gonna go ahead and type this in manually. All right, so let's see. Oh yeah, do the dir on it. THM dc.za. Oh, sorry, .loc. Okay, looks good. Says finally we have access to tier 0 infrastructure and have compromised the full child domain. Yeah, what does the user create to ask the CA for a certificate? That's going to be the CSR, which is the certificate signing request. What is the name of Microsoft PKI implementation? Active Directory certificate service ADCS. What is the value of the flag stored on THM DC in the administrator's desktop directory? And let's see if we can go ahead and grab that. Let's see here. So C, and then it'll be users, administrator, and it's probably, yeah, desktop. See if this works. Yep. All right. Awesome. So now we can change dir. Oh, first off, let's fill this last part in with flag 5, flag 5 dot txt, and then change dir to type, and it should give us that flag. Like so. Let's see here. Awesome. Now you can also use something like PSExec, the one from like sysinternals, right? To probably gain a foothold onto that DC and do some other stuff. So that's the end for that one. Task number 8 says exploiting domain trusts. Let's see what they have for us here. Even though we have access to tier 0 infrastructure, this is still not enough. We have only exploited the ZA TryHackMe.local domain. Surely TryHackMe must have domains for other regions as well. Well, if we take control of the root domain, TryHackMe.loc, we will be in a position to compromise all of these regional domains. In this task, we will look at how domain trust can be exploited to take control of the entire forest. Domain trust. As discussed in AD Basics Room, a forest is a collection of one or more domain trees inside an AD network. Domain trusts are a mechanism for users in the network to gain access to other resources in the domain. For the most part, trusts outline how the domains inside of a forest communicate with each other. In some environments, trusts can be extended out to external domains and even forests in some cases. There are two main types of trust that can be configured between domains. Directional. The direction of the trust flows from a trusting domain to a trusted domain. Transitive. The trust relationship expands beyond two domains to include other trusted domains. It is common to have a root or parent domain in a forest. In our case, this is tryhackme.loc. For each regional office, sub or child domains are created, such as ZA tryhackme.loc or UK tryhackme.loc. This forest configuration will allow the sharing of resources between the ZA and UK office. For example, if some user in the UK office requires access to THM server 1, we can grant access for the user in the ZA domain. This permission delegation works since there is bi-directional trust between ZA and the root domain and the UK and the root domain, essentially creating a transitive trust between ZA and UK. As mentioned above, the trust between a parent and child domain is bidirectional. This is intended behavior and is used to share resources through greater transitive trust relationships. However, as an attacker, we can also exploit this trust to compromise the parent domain if we have compromised the child domain. KRBG or KRBTGT and golden tickets. KRBGT KRBTGT is the account used for Microsoft implementation of Kerberos. The name is derived from Kerberos, KRB, and ticket granting ticket TGT. Essentially, this account acts as the service account for the Kerberos Distribution Center, which is KDC service, which handles all Kerberos ticket requests. This account is used to encrypt and sign all Kerberos tickets for the domain. Since the password hash is shared by all domain controllers, they can then verify the authenticity of the received TGT when users request access to resources. However, what if we want to generate our own TGT to grant us access to anything or everything? This is known as a golden ticket attack. In a golden ticket attack, we bypass the KDC altogether and create our own TGTs, essentially becoming a ticket granting server, TGS. In order to forge TGTs, we need the following information: the FQDN of the domain, the security identifier of the domain, the username of the account we want to impersonate, the KRB TGT password hash. The first three are usually easy to cover. The last one requires a domain compromise since KRB TGT password hash is stored only on domain controllers. Luckily for us, we have just compromised the tier 0 admins group with a forged certificate, so we are in a position to recover the KRB TGT password hash. We will again use Mimikatz with a DC sync to recover the KRB TGT password hash on THM server 2. All right, so we need to get back into Mimikatz. Go ahead and clear all this stuff out. And fire up Mimikatz again. So I'm going to adjust up arrow. Okay. And same thing here. All right. And we need to do this LSA dump. LSA dump. Desync. Or DC sync. User. Okay. Looks good to go here. And we need to get that hash. So let me scroll back up a little bit. All right. Let's see here. Interwhelm TGTs. Using the TGT KRB TGT password hash, we could now forge a golden ticket to access any resource in the child domain. This will also be discussed in more detail in the persisting AD room. However, we can take this a step further by forging an inter-realm TGT. Inter-realm TGTs are used to provide access to resources in other domains. In our case, we want to exploit the bidirectional trust relationship between the child and the parent domain to gain full access to the parent domain. We will include extra account SIDs from other domains when we construct the golden ticket to perform this exploit. Mimikatz can assist with this, allowing us to set the extra SID section of the curb validation info structure of the Kerberos TGT. The extra SIDs section is described as a pointer to a list of curb SID and attribute structures that contain a list of SIDs corresponding to groups and domains other than the account domain to which the principal belongs. The key here is that we will exploit the trust the parent domain has for our child domain by adding the SID of the enterprise admins EA group as an extra SID to our forged ticket for the domain controller of the child domain. The EA group belongs to the parent domain, and membership to this group essentially grants administrative privileges over the entire forest. The default SID for this group is S1521 root domain 519. Before we can go into exploitation, we first need to recover two SIDs. The SID of the child domain controller, THMDC, which we will impersonate in our forge TGT. The SID of the enterprise admins in the parent domain, which we'll add as an extra SID to our forge TGT. To recover these SIDs, we can use the AD RSAT PowerShell commandlets. We can recover the SID of the child domain controller using the following command. All right, first off, let me get Notepad open. All right, so probably gonna use this information later on. And we need to get this hash here. I believe I'm just gonna grab all these just in case. All right, I'm just gonna grab everything here if it lets me. Okay, let's see. All right, so let's go ahead and plug this in to Notepad. All right, so it should be good there. I don't think there's anything else we need. No, okay. So let me exit out here and clear the screen. Let's go ahead and copy and paste this over. Okay. That's right. We need to get a PowerShell. Okay. Now let's do it. Okay. We can recover the SID for the enterprise groups using the following query. So let's go ahead and do that. And paste. Okay, so that looks good. Exploiting domain trust. We finally have all the information required to create our forged TGT. We will use Mimikatz to generate this golden ticket. The command will look something like this. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. So we gotta get back in Mimikatz. So let's go ahead and fire that up again. All right, I'm just gonna do it like this. Copy and paste. Okay. Privilege debug. Awesome. So we need to do this here. And copy this here. And I'll have to put the SID in manually for this one. It's going to be the .loc here. So it's this top one. Okay. Grab that. Paste it down here. And then we need to do this here. Because we'll have to put that hash in for that account RC4. So let's see here. All right, so it's got to be this, probably this one here. So let's go ahead and grab that. Okay. All right, so that's good. Uh, let's see. I think that's it. Nope, the SIDS. So SIDS, oop, SIDS, okay. And it needs to be the enterprise admins group, which is this here. So I'm gonna grab that, paste it down there, and then PTT, like so. And it looks good, so let's see what happens. Oh, okay. All right, so it looks like it worked. First, we will verify that the ticket works. For access to THMDC, since it's a valid ticket for the administrator. And let's just go ahead and do that. We'll need to get out of this. So let's exit. Clear the screen. You know, you can do K-list as well. All right. So let me delete this. All right, looks good to go. Says this at least confirms that the golden ticket was forged to access the child DC. However, since we specified extra SIDs, we should also have access to the parent DC. All right, so we're gonna do the same thing here, except we're targeting the root DC. All right, so clear the screen. All right, so let's try this. $. Okay, sweet. So it looks like we're good. This proves that we now have fully compromised the parent domain solely by compromising one of the child domains. Awesome. What domain trust relationship is by default configured between a parent and child domain? What was that? I think that was bidirectional. No. That was the we'll go up there and get it in a second. What is the name of the AD account used by KDC? That was the KRB TGT. Or, what is the name of the TGT that grants access to resources outside of our current domain? And what's the value of the flag stored? Well, let's go ahead and grab this flag real quick. Answer the first question is going to be bidirectional trust, and the other question is going to be inter-realm TGT. And to get the flag, you use type, and then just navigate to that flag 6 as shown right here. And there's the flag, plug it in there, and you're done. Task number 9 is conclusion. All right, awesome. Exploiting AD takes time to master, and the techniques used will highly depend on the configuration of the AD structure that is being attacked. The biggest thing to understand is that the process is cyclic. We will, in most cases, not be able to run a single boot to root exploit that gives us DA access. The best approach is to perform exploitation that furthers your access, then use the access that was achieved to perform enumeration again, looking for additional exploit paths that may be possible from this new position. Mitigations. AD exploitation, like AD enumeration, is incredibly hard to defend against. This is because what may be considered a misconfiguration that can be exploited has an actual business case. However, we can do a couple of things to protect against exploitation. We need to ensure that no configuration breaks our tiering model. Accounts in a lower tier should not have the ability to interact with resources in a higher tier. Furthermore, accounts from a higher tier should never log onto resources in a lower tier. The principle of least privilege should be followed when permission delegation is performed. Furthermore, permission delegation should adhere to the tiering model, ensuring that a lower tier object can alter a higher tier object. SMB signing should be enforced, not just enabled. This will prevent credential relay attempts. AD objects and their configuration are not the only paths for exploitation. AD services such as ADCS should also be considered part of the attack servers and secured. We need to implement sufficient security controls to protect Tier 0 infrastructure and accounts in our child domains, since a compromise of one can lead to the account compromise the entire forest. With our exploitation of AD complete, the next step is to dig in our roots to make sure the blue team cannot simply purge our access. This will be covered in the next room. Done with AD exploitation, ready for AD persistence. Awesome. We are done. That was a pretty long room. But hey, these 80s rooms are great on TryHackMe. You learn a lot of information. So hopefully you guys are taking notes. Hopefully you're finding value in these videos and can apply this to your environment. But if you did enjoy the video, be sure to hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Comment below on your thoughts and opinions on the information discussed in the video, and I will catch you at the next video. Have a nice day. Thank you for watching. See you later.